Da 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 da! What's my good cheer? Welcome, everybody. Pop in, say hi. If you've never been to one of my lives before, hi, I'm Cindy. I explore the inside and the outside. And here on this live show, which is one of two live shows that I do, uh, we get deep. We really delve into those emotions. We really delve into those sensitivities that is, so ingrained in us and so ingrained so much that we can find sometimes that it can stop us in our tracks from making any kind of serious movement forward, right? It can stop us from reaching out and, right, setting goals and working towards those things that we want so much, right? Just because, well, it's a lot of things, but it's just a little bit of a taste. And it's in those conversations that each one of us get to learn things. And, I come into my live shows after each and every one of my live shows and I take a lesson for myself. And I was thinking this afternoon, I didn't even go into last night's. I haven't even watched last night's live show, and I'm already doing the next one. And that's because I got so into the projects today. I got up this morning. I don't know what got into me, but I was in a jimble jamber of wires, and I'm not talking about my own wires because that's what we do here. We untangle wires, but in actual wires. I decided to tear my computer apart, tear my desk apart. I'm trying to find a little bit of space in my little apartment for a little dinette set. No chairs yet, but I got the table. The opportunity arose, and instead of paying the big bucks, I pay a few dollars now, and it's for something that I want. I only buy secondhand, I only buy thrifted, and I accept gifts into my life. I was telling my sister yesterday the only thing that I have personally have, right? The oldest thing. It's an old hair conditioner comb with great big spaces in between the teeth so I don't get tangles. And everything else in my house is a gift or it's been thrifted, right? And it's really amazing what a beautiful little, well, I think it's for me, right? Um, but what a beautiful little environment I have created for myself, right? And I am, right? It's in that relationship that I have with myself. I want myself to be comfortable. I don't want myself to feel that I'm missing out on fun stuff or right things that I could be doing that doesn't take any energy, that I don't have to expand out of myself, that I don't have to get out of my comfort zone for, right? Just like I was talking when I first came in, sometimes we can be our worst little instigators in our lack of movement. But it is in my optimism that we are going to rectify that, right? It might not be today, might not be tomorrow, might not even be in this lifetime, but I do believe there are parts of each and every one of us that move forward, right? You know, it is epigenetically in that receivership that our children get and our nieces and nephews, those next generations, right? And the people that they come and make movement with, and how they rub with people, and all of that is just passed down. And for some of us, right, we are lucky enough to get just enough sometimes, but sometimes that's all you need is just enough, right? To wake up to some of these ideas. And sometimes, you don't, right? You don't get to. And right, something else that we'd like to rectify, because I think a lot of people being oblivious, because I was oblivious for so long. I think I could have been here a whole lot sooner than than I did. And I would have provided myself a service, but I think I would have provided others a service too, because I would have had all that information that I'm just starting to catch up onto now, right? But I can't beat myself up for any of it, because it doesn't serve any purpose except to keep me in those negative states. We are moving forward, and it's not like, we forget, right? Those misgivings and those missteps, and right, those those steerings and influences that didn't serve us well. It's not like we forget that, right? We just make sure we don't fall into those same mistakes a second and a third time, right? That we learn from the mistakes, that each time we get a little bit better and a little bit better. Okay, you guys, I don't know where that came from. I'll come back in and watch the live live again. It is a little bit of that exhaustion tonight, a little bit of proud. I'm proud. I worked hard today, right? Right before I came live, I lost my internet again, but I think I accidentally put my laptop cord and connected it to my PC computer rather than my laptop. And I think I'm using the one for the computer, which is a slightly different size for my laptop, because I had trouble getting it in. And this one, I'm having trouble keeping it in. So I figured out the solution. I got it jammed in there for now, but I just wanted to finish up, right? And it is completed. I couldn't believe how much stuff, how much dust bunnies and things that I didn't need, right? Gave me a chance to refresh things and put a new keyboard out. Put a new keyboard out. I'm feeling good about it. Lots of cleaning tomorrow, but I don't work until the afternoon. So I will spend that time, right, just making my place look super comfortable. And that's what it's for. This is my environment, and I want to keep it nice. I want to feel good about it. I want to feel that, if a moving truck came today, they wouldn't be taking anything that I don't want. Well, we're far from that, but we're working on it, and it's pretty good. Okay, you guys. This week we had this word companionship, this one word that we have been picking every week for the past 31 weeks now. This is our 31st word, I do believe. Better double check that on that. I don't want to be repeating myself and have it totally wrong in that. And um 31, yes, companionship. 30, word number 31. So we've been working with it for a couple of days now. We have a couple of more days. Oh, today and tomorrow, you guys, and we're already done with it. I can't believe that we've been working on it for 3 days. It has been work. It really has. And I come into these lives and it might seem like 10 or 15 minutes. And it may just be a conversation that I'm just brushing the topic, but I have been in it. I have been in my contemplation and in the chores that I'm doing, right? I am in a contemplative state, and I'm taking in the lessons. And today I was thinking, well, how do I go about this? Companionship. It's not like I was the great expert on relationships, right? It just seemed like every single relationship was like an obstacle course or a minefield. Good analogy. um, but so I'm thinking, like, how can I really get a lesson out there when it comes to companionship? Because I am a bit of a lone wolf. I make this move, and it is part of my hypervigilance. I do realize that I expand and stretch and get out of my comfort zones all the time, but I am doing it online, right? In a comfortable, safe environment that I've created to make myself feel comfortable. So I have to find other ways to expand, other ways to feel that I am moving forward. And that's the idea, right? You delve a little bit deeper, right? Go harder on the topics, right? Really, really take a note of what you're bringing to the table when it comes to these powerful words that we have been doing. Cindy, I'm thinking, right? You're not a relationship expert. You have been a caregiver your entire life. And when I say that, I'm saying it in that codependency kind of way, that where I gave myself up and I served others, right? It's the way I was brought up. I feel comfortable in that. And, I think it's a good place for me too, because of my hypervigilance, because of that complex trauma as a child. When you're boss, when you're right, you're in charge, you're willing to take those hits. You're willing to be right. You're the leader. You are responsible if anything goes wrong. The buck ends with you being second fiddle. Yes, you're going to hear it when the big boss loses the big bucks, or right, he's still got to answer to somebody, and right, it does roll down the hill. But in the end, it's not landing in your lap. You're not responsible for that, right? So I'm thinking about it, and I think it's a good place for me as somebody who is highly sensitive, right? That I can go in and be that support system, right? And it's where I feel comfortable working in the background, but I know working in the background is not going to get me seen, and it's not going to get me heard. And that's very, very important. So, right? Comfortable or uncomfortable, I'm going to show up every single day, right? So let's get back to this lesson. I trail off those side branches sometimes. You'll get used to that too. But I thought today in this word companionship, I would talk a little bit about somebody I loved very, very, very much. This person, I thought he was beautiful on the inside and the out. Those are the rarities. They are so rare that sometimes, right, you'll let the close sneak in and still give you that same thought of, right, beautiful on the inside and the outside. He was not perfect, and he was a companion for me, and one of the most important companions that I had in my life. But he wasn't my husband. He wasn't my boyfriend, though I loved him dearly, and I believe he loved me too, right? But he was beautiful. This guy could have been a supermodel. He was absolutely gorgeous. He was smart. He was kind. He was so friendly, and yet he was broken. And, there were things that I saw that I thought maybe, reflected a little bit in that brokenness. Like he drank lots, right? But other than that, I never saw that he was sad, right? I never knew he suffered with depression, though I knew he had things in his life that would give him cause to suffer if it was obvious to anybody, right? we were the party group, right? Everybody in our group drank. I was going through some great changes, and one of those changes was, right, loving him. But I was 311 pounds. Like I said, he could have been a supermodel. That's how good looking he was. And he had all the qualities, almost all the qualities, and we'll get to that in a moment, that I could hope for in anybody. He was my best friend, and I was his best friend. Um, uh, he had meningitis when he was a baby and made him deaf in one ear. I guess that was part of why, right? We got along so well. One of those qualities about me that he really appreciated because of the tone of my voice. It became very easy for him to have conversations with me and be able to follow those conversations. Didn't realize he was so good looking. He had it all together. I never realized that possibly he had insecurities and limiting beliefs because he was so handsome and because every girl that came across him wanted a piece of him, right? And I think it made him uncomfortable. With me, he was comfortable from day one. Me and him, right? We teamed up and we created this amazing group of people that truly cared for each other, all of us, full of kinks and limiting beliefs and idiosyncrasies. We were each one of us very, very unique. We dated each other. And now when I say that, we right, all my friends were sleeping with each other's boyfriends, and it was a mess, but at the same time, that wasn't something really I had to deal with. I was 311 pounds, right? I had a lot of limiting beliefs. I had a lot of problems. And this man, Brian, came into my life and instantly, and it's funny how these relationships, these important relationships in my life have come into my life like so instant, right? Even my husband was a one night stand who never went away, right? Like it was so instant, and I loved these men so much. But and we're talking about my friend Brian, right? And when we talk about companionship, what he did for my life, and I think in the next life that possibly he might get a little bit further because of what he did for me, that he showed me that loving and that caring and that friendship. And it came from somebody from an it group, not from, right, the geek squad or those cultural groups that always seem to be outed from any other group, right? All those uniques that weren't kind of welcome, right? You know those groups. If you're hanging out with me, for sure you know those groups, right? Hello, Nancy. That must be Nancy there. I hope everybody's having a good night. And for those of you who pop in later, I hope your week is off to a great start. So let's get back into this story about Brian. We're talking about companionship, but when we look at companionship, right off the hop, you think boyfriends, right? Husbands, and we can get compulsed in that, right? Even in my relationship with Brian, I was very, very compulsed. I was 311 pounds. He was my dream man, right? At that time, he was my dream man, and we were best friends. And right off the hop, it was instant, and we spent all our time together, just me and him. All happy St. Patty's Day there, Nancy. Thank you, dear. Thank you so much. And I really wanted him. And I'd always had a weight problem my entire life. I had a serious weight problem, but I loved him so much. And, you know, and I knew how he felt about me, but him being so handsome and him being a part of those crowds, right? I really wouldn't have been accepted. They all knew me. I was the queen bee, right? We were, right? We were friends though, right? And I wanted more. And I made that decision. I was going to go for it, right? And I was going to lose all that weight and I was going to get the man that I loved, my friend Brian. And he was my friend. And we were friends for so long, years and years and years. And I started losing that weight and I built up the confidence. Now, I didn't lose any of my limiting beliefs. I wasn't woken up to any of these ideas yet, but I was feeling good, right? I was getting the attention from the men. I was able to get into beautiful clothes, right? Brian wouldn't let me out of his sight. He stayed with me. It took me almost a year to lose all that weight, and he stayed with me that entire year, every single day, right? And if he wasn't with me, we were on the phone, like, right? Those days, that's all there was, right? And we both loved a lot of the same things. We both loved the outdoors. We both loved clubbing. I worked at the bar. Um, um, we both loved just being out on adventures, but most of all, we loved each other's company. We really, really, I loved his company and he loved my company. And I lost all that weight for him. And he was my cheerleader. He was my biggest cheerleader. He never let me fail. And I never failed in that diet that entire year. And I lost 160 pounds, a lot of weight. From a 311, I think I went down to 140 pounds. And then my doctor told me to gain a few pounds because when you lose that kind of weight, you don't take into consideration the loose skin. And I had a lot of loose skin. I had it all taken care of. Grateful that I live in a province where your emotional well being is just as important as your physical well being. And the government paid for the plastic surgery too, the tummy tucks and the boob jobs. I live in a great province. I live in a great country, and I am grateful for that because I recognize that lots of people, right? They really have to struggle in lots of ways. I wasn't woke to any of those ideas and being very empathic, Nancy. Nancy was saying that she's sorry, but she doesn't change herself for any man. While I was very much a codependent, I would have done anything for, well, those relationships that I never had, right? All those platonic relationships, nothing serious. But I lost all that weight and I chickened out. Remember what I say? You sometimes, right? We set those goals and then we talk ourselves out of it. We become our own worst enemies and we look for excuses. We look for the outs. And I got my out, right? My friends. I couldn't say no to the guys, right? Everybody was asking me out. I'd never been considered pretty before, right? I was getting lots of attention and I was in love with somebody else. And, right, one of my friends said, well, a couple of them got together and they said, why would you want to go out with Brian? Why would you do that? He didn't want you when you were fat, right? And I understood why, right? When I was big, that why there couldn't be a relationship, right? Different story then. It was, right? You can't help what you're attracted to, right? Some people are attracted to big women. Most men are not attracted to those big women. It's just a fact. But lots of men have different tastes in their women. But I took it as my out when my friend said that to me and I outed him. Right? I said, "You're right. You guys are so right." And in that moment I made that decision, right? And I gave myself permission. I was looking for that out. And I'll never know where that relationship might have gone, right? Where we would be right now if it had worked out the way. There are no regrets because, you know, we can't be responsible for other people's actions. We can only be responsible for our own actions. And right, there were no promises made. And we had left it for far too long that it was kind of uncomfortable trying to get back into that state. Not like we didn't try, we did, but it was just so uncomfortable and awkward. And shortly after that, I met my husband, my future husband. And that's a story for another day. But lots of people come in and out of our lives, and I didn't get a heartbreak over that relationship ending with Brian. It wasn't heartbreaking at all because I just stepped right into my dream relationship, right? And I don't regret, you know, not going for what I want because, when you get a better look at people, you get to understand that everybody is handicapped, everybody is kinked in some way. And there were things about Brian that wouldn't have sat well with me ever. And we're like the five people we surround ourselves with. I do believe that is true. And some of those qualities did and would have continued to rub off on me. And that's the truth, right? I loved him dearly. He was in a place in my life where he was my best friend, and his brother too was a best friend of mine, and grateful, right? Still is, right? And I don't have a lot of friends. And you got to appreciate those friends that come into your life that offer up their time or their ear or their comfort, or sometimes it's in the agreement, sometimes it's in the disagreement of, right, their opinions of what we talk about, right? What we relay and what we express and what we share with each other. That's that companionship, right? That companionship is a sacred relationship. And that relationship I had with Brian was very sacred, and I kept it to heart even though there was a lot of negative in its feedback from others. I didn't really care because I felt that relationship out with my heart, and there were so many gifts that nobody else. I would never have met my husband. I would never have that experience of being happy, right? I would never have had that experience of being a slim person, being beautiful, right? And I already knew I was beautiful on the inside. For a short while, I was beautiful on the outside too. A short while. I'm still beautiful inside and out, right? But that's my perception, and that's my prerogative, and that's my responsibility to keep reminding myself of that because that relationship with myself is the most important one, right? And I can't beat myself up for relationships that don't work only because, in reflection and in looking back, they were never meant to work, right? I think we grieve too long, right, in what we think is the end of the world. And I don't mean to minimize that, but I think also a lot of people come in and out of our lives, all different types of relationships. And, I've been disappointed by relationships I've just gotten into and ended. And I have been disappointed in relationships that I have invested decades into, right? But when they're ended, when they're over, they're just over. And it's a piece of change. So it's not something to really, well, pain, right? It's sad. These endings are always sad, but I think, right, we make it a whole lot worse, right? Like I said, sometimes we're looking for those excuses. And sometimes I think we look for those excuses to be depressed and, right, forever heartbroken, right? I was forever heartbroken when my marriage fell apart. Again, a story for another day. But I have to say, that took a decade out of my life, right? Very important decade that I could have filled up with amazing things, right? That's a story for another day. But in reflection, seeing I am talking about Brian, I am certain, right, that he was meant to come into my life, right? I do believe that him and his brother were meant to join forces, right? Because my brother-in-law is Brian's brother, right? So it's kind of neat. We have had both those brothers in our family, and I suspect, right, somewheres down the line we'll meet each other again, and maybe we'll have that opportunity, maybe we won't, right? Okay, you guys, let's see what Nancy's got to say. My ex died last year. When I heard about it, I said, good riddance. Friends of mine thought I was heartless. But, right, your ex-husband hurt you lots, right? Sometimes you have to figure out a way to forgive, right? Even if you're just forgiving that man's soul, but sometimes, right, the soul is kinked too, right? Sometimes we blame it all on that human, like it's all us, but it is entangling the lines, those wires, right? It is in that relationship with ourselves that we can kind of, right, take the blame just as much as we can take the credit. Okay, you guys, I am bagged. I want to finish picking up some of these wires. I had one wire cord left when I was done with it all, but I just found it was for one of my speakers, so that's good. So I got it all back together. I don't know why my computer shut off, but I think it's up and running. I think everything is spotless here. Now it's the piles. Now it's the piles I got to figure out. But that's okay. I have to go to work tomorrow. We'll take a big donation bag to work. Okay, you guys. Have a great night. Happy St. Patty's Day, everybody. Thank you so much, Nancy, for popping into my life tonight. You're an amazing sweetheart. I hope your past couple of days have been really good, right? Yeah. Okay, you guys. See you tomorrow. Bye.